Now we're at the beginning of the Sea to Sky Highway at the bottom of Howe Sound, which is a fjord that is 30 miles long and 20 miles wide. It's triangular and it's got many islands in it, as you can see in the distance. The highway is very busy as it leads up to the resort community of Whister. Here we have a sweeping panorama of Howe Sound, and it basically is a fjord. You can see the other side of Howe Sound, and the mountains that surround Howe Sound go up to 6,000 feet and are snow covered for a large part of the year. Here's the old mine, Britannia Beach. There used to be a town here. Now it was taken out in the 1920s by a flood. Now they've rebuilt parts of it and are putting in new developments. We're almost at the head of Howe Sound, and you can see in the distance there some fairly high mountains, 7,000 feet, and the panorama of the mountains around here. And here we're looking south toward Anvil Island, which is about right in the middle of Howe Sound. Next we'll be going north to the town of Squamish. Here we're at the top of Howe Sound, and you can see the town of Squamish in the distance there, and the volcano Mount Garibaldi. And right there on the right we have the Squamish Chief, which is one of the largest granite monoliths in North America. Very popular climbing spot that attracts people from around the world. They go to Squamish just to climb that. And Mount Garibaldi is 8,787 feet. Perpetually covered in glaciers. The Squamish Chief is just 2,000 feet, but it's a vertical rock wall of almost perfect granite. Very popular with climbers. Right next to almost just a couple of miles south of Squamish is Shannon Falls Provincial Park. There you can see it's a waterfall, cascade, and it comes down 1,000 feet. Very popular site for picnicking and hiking. Here, just 1 mile north of Shannon Falls, is the Sea to Sky gondola. Goes up a big granite mountain there, and you can see up at the top there's lots of amenities up, restaurants and hiking trails. Good place to spend an afternoon, much as half a day. An interesting feature of the Sea to Sky Highway just before the Cheakamus Canyon is the Tantalus Range. These mountains are very spectacular and range between 7,000 and 8,500 feet and go on for about 35 miles. The most southerly end of the Tantalus Mountains, Mount Sedgwick, can be seen from the University of British Columbia. Here we are seeing the most spectacular part of the Tantalus Range with its extensive ice fields. They're called the Tantalus Mountains because they are the first climbers that came here and saw them were tantalized by the ruggedness of them and wanted to climb them. This is Brandywine Falls, just south of Whistler. It's about 100 feet tall, and it's in a small canyon where you can see different layers of basalt that it's cut into over hundreds of thousands of years. These were laid down by volcanoes that had erupted over the ages here in the Whistler Valley. Here we're looking back at the town of Whistler on Alta Lake, which is a recreational area used in the summer, sailing and swimming and everything. And there you can see Whistler and Blackcomb Mountains in the background. Here's looking north toward the mountains north of Whistler. And the road north to Pemberton. Here we're in the Pemberton Valley. It's a valley that's about at a very low elevation, maybe sea level, and you can see very high mountains that rise up above it. This ridge here is called Mount Curry, and it rises almost 9,000 feet straight up out of the valley. You can see the snow-capped mountain ridges right at the top there. Here we are at Duffy Lake, an elevation of about 4,200 feet, and in the distance we can see the 9,000 foot mountains that surround Joffrey Lakes. Here we have all the wildflowers that surround the lake. And the very high ridges that surround this lake. This lake's about 3 or 4 miles long, and at the end you have not Joffrey, but it's called Cayush Creek, which goes through some very magnificent deep canyons, which we'll be coming up to shortly. Here we're coming into Cayush River Canyon, which is over 4,000 feet deep in parts. In the distance, we can see Cayush Creek. We can hear it. There's Cayush Creek down in the valley there. And it, from Duffy Lake, it falls over 3,000 feet in approximately 20 miles down before it reaches the Fraser River. Here's just showing some of the steepness of the sides of the canyon. Smells like we've got a forest fire somewhere, so the air is very acrid with smoke. The canyon walls rise above you thousands of feet. And the further you go along this road, the more and narrower the canyon closes in on you. Yeah, I'm steering.
You can do it.
Here, I'll let you take it. Here is looking up the canyon, and you can see Coyote Creek over 1,000 feet below, right down there. Looking way up, you can see snow-capped mountains up about 9,000 feet to the top there, and right up to the top of that mountain there.
Wouldn't it be easier to drive up to the side?
Here we have a view of Anderson Lake. It's a fjord lake with walls that go up 7,000 feet. The lake's about 20 miles long. Originally it was a natural lake, but now it's a reservoir where the level has been raised by a small dam. There's a forest fire somewhere up in the mountains, so the air is quite bad. And the lighting isn't too good. The water is very clear, but cold. Although amazingly, there's some kids swimming in it. It's a nice fenced-in area, or a roped-in area where you can go swimming if you can stand the cold. Here we're entering the historic gold rush town of Lillooet. Right above the Fraser River. Very hazy because we have a forest fire nearby. Here's a very interesting historic site in Lillooet. It's the Miyazaki house. And the house was built in the 1870s, I believe, and was occupied by a Dr. Miyazaki from the beginning of World War II in 1941, when the Japanese in BC were expelled from the coast and forced to live inland. Well, Dr. Miyazaki was the only doctor in this whole area, and he used to travel around probably 100 miles in every direction. He was also the only veterinarian, but he was a human doctor, and he took care of the town and surrounding areas for many, many years, and he was greatly admired. And after the Japanese were no longer forced to stay away from the coast, he continued to live here for the rest of his life. So this house was occupied by him until he died, and then it was given to turned into a museum. Here's the plaque that was put here in 2017. A lasting legacy project supported by British Columbia, Canada. We finally got out of the smoke. We turned east, and now we're high above the Fraser Canyon. The river's quite low. But it's quite impressive nevertheless. There's the canyon walls and the river far down. Top of the canyon, and looking down toward where it came from, and looking up on the other side of the canyon. Very high canyon walls, and the road is all being rebuilt as it was slipping away for many years. We're now in very dry sagebrush country, and there's where we're going, high up into the sagebrush and mountains. There's the road in the distance. Now we're in the Marble Canyon, which is got some interesting geological features in it. The whole place is made up of marble, and we've got some unique lakes here which have a certain type of freshwater coral in them, which is almost unique in the world. This lake is practically unique in the world. It's called Pavilion Lake, and it's got freshwater coral in it, made by a certain type of algae or organism in the lake. And you've got this freshwater coral. There's only one or two other lakes in the world that have this type of coral or deposits, and scientists have come from around the world just to study it. As I said, the mountains around here are very rich in marble, calcium carbonate, so that probably has something to do with it. Here we're at the historic Hat Creek Ranch, which was founded in 1861. It's got some of the original buildings. And here's the original Caribou Wagon Road from 1861. This was the original Caribou Wagon Road, and this was one of the original stops for the wagons, for the stagecoaches, starting in 1860s. And used to come across this bridge, which was over, this creek is called Hat Creek. And there in the background, you can see the original roadhouse from 1861. Here's the various, it was a working farm, so here you can see the various buildings and with the cattle ranches, the various farm machinery around. And there's an old wagon there. It's a provincial historic site, but it actually is a working farm with piggeries, and it's got an orchard there, and there's an old building, the mower shed, that's 1900. And here's Barnard's Express, which was the company that used to take freight up to Quesnel and Barkerville from the 1860s until about 1914. This is the original building here. And they've got a lot of the original furnishings inside. Can't see much inside there, but as you can see, Hat Creek House, established 1861. So this building is in very nice restored condition. There's a little gopher. Marmot, I think that is. Ground squirrel. And here's the orchard with various apple trees, plum trees, and there's a working garden in the background there. And there's the little marmot or ground squirrel. He seems to know where he wants to go. Obviously looking for food. He lives under the house. In the summer, this Hat Creek Ranch is a popular campground, and they've got a neat restaurant here and a gift shop and admission center, and the whole thing is an interpretive center. People can come here and they can even stay in teepees. Sometimes they have different things like powwows here and various things like that. I think it's open till about 6 o'clock in the evening. We're now here, it's about 8 o'clock, so it's been closed